A few months ago, I wrote an article saying there was a danger of planes hovering and Americans and Italians and other people hovering to dump the problem of Afghanistan on Africa. It did not take long before the war in other parts of Africa became worse. Ethiopia was on fire. It started, it increased. Then we had Mozambique was on fire with rebels of Al-Shabaab and other ISIS elements disrupting the region of Southern Africa. But then what has shocked the world and most of SADC nations of South African Development Organization, SADC Corporation, is the setting up of AFCOM offices. Previously, AFCOM was in Djibouti. It closed their offices and they were looking for somewhere else to go. They came and approached Kenya and they said they want, Kenyans said, I think we have a lot of our own bases with you. It is not possible. The commander of AFCOM, while leaving and giving his final speech in Africa, all of you know what he was talking about. That we have not left, but we are only changing the tactics of fighting, helping Africa to fight bad governance, terrorism, removing insecurity in most of the areas. He visited all the areas in West Africa. What then has come out? They found a place in Zambia. Good afternoon, viewers. Thank you very much for joining Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from the headquarters of African Punchline in Africa. Thank you very much, viewers across the continent of Africa. You're welcome. I'm the host for this show, the editor's MEMO. Across in Nairobi, Kenya, in the Republic of Kenya, in Nairobi, is none other than Miriam Ogutu. Good afternoon.
Doka, very good afternoon, and very good afternoon to our viewers.
Good afternoon. We are sorry for the delay, but I hope you have enjoyed most of the programs since morning, and thank you very much, Miriam, for keeping the pattern and the homage and the patrons of Punchline Africa busy. The comments were very, very interesting on the question, especially when it was done by ladies, without a person from the other. Oi, ciao. Good morning, all of you in Europe. Good morning in West Africa. And a good evening in Australia, China, Russia, wherever you are in South America. You are watching this show, which is the editor's memo. And today we want to bring an African example, and we shall case study it on all African countries as to whether independent candidates in Africa mean anything to be independent. The question we have before us is very easy to answer. Are independent candidates in Africa independent? When people say they are standing on a ticket of an independent candidate, do they really remain independent? From the morning, Miriam has been looking at how we have sunk so low on the chapter 6, where you point at others and the other fingers don't point there, but one finger should point at yourself. The Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya has been telling people to resign, but in actual sense, he doesn't know that he should have resigned himself, because he's utilizing government institutions, government cars, and the government materials to make sure that he wins an election, which is an advantage against the others who have no facilities who have not been given an upper hand as far as the government materials are concerned. So these are some of the issues that have made independent candidates. Some people go independent. What makes people become independent? Independent candidates in other developed democracies are candidates who come with their open-minded. They don't usually vote that side or this side. They stick to their agenda. If they agree with immigration, they say we don't like immigration policy. But you don't find them going to vote, or you don't find them aligning themselves with other voters of this party where they left. We shall look at across Africa and see which country actually has reached a point of really having independent candidates in their parliament. South Africa is one of the countries in Africa that has got independent candidates who really are independent. They voice their views. When they see the opposition making a mistake, they blame them. When they see the government making a mistake, they blame them, and they put their positions across. But in a real sense, is there independence of independent candidates? Let me hear the views of the panel, and let Miriam give us a small background, then and hear the views of Gladwell Kiragu. Are you independent? Most of the ladies across the continent of Africa, you find, they say, I am independent. I don't know how independent means when you actually go back to court to seek help from the partner, and if he has refused, you do what they have done to Sonko. Then are you independent? Are you single or you are not single? If you are single, you should actually go as a single entity. If you have decided to be single, be single. Kiragu, Gladwell, are you independent? But before that, you answer that after Miriam has given us a background of what exactly independent candidates in Kenya's 2022 August elections mean. Are they really independent, or they are people, a subsection of the political parties, because they have been rejected in the political party? They go and form independent. And what type of democracy is Kenya trying to create? Are we going to have more independent candidates, MPs, members of assembly, senators, governors in this country more than political parties? What is making people run away from political parties? Back to you, Miriam, in the studio in Nairobi. Thank you.
All right, Doc, thank you so much. And perhaps what I'd like to bring to our attention is what the Constitution says as far as anybody who wants to stand as an independent candidate, and that is Article 85 of Kenya's Constitution says any person is eligible to stand as an independent candidate for election if the person A is not a member of registered political party and has not been a member for at least 3 months immediately before the date of the election, and B satisfies the requirements of Article 99(1) C 1 or 2 in the case of a candidate for election to the National Assembly or the Senate respectively, or Article 193 of the Kenyan Constitution in the case of a candidate for election to a county assembly. So anybody is eligible to run as long as they've not been a member of any political parties 3 months prior to the election, and then if at all they meet the requirements in Article 99 and 193 of the Constitution, which I think we shall be looking at in the course of this conversation. So that is just what the Constitution says about anybody seeking to go after an elective seat as an independent candidate.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for bringing that article. That article is very clear. Any person is eligible to stand as an independent candidate for election if the person is not a member of a registered political party and has not been a member of for at least 3 months. 3 months immediately before the date of the election. Media, we just received independent candidates. Is there anybody in Kenya who qualifies to be independent? Is there anybody who in Kenya who qualifies to be independent from this article?
It is possible.
3 months. 3 months.
Before
You have not been a member. You have not been a member of a party. But if you see the type of independent media who are now, who just because they failed in nomination, they have gone to pick nomination papers for independent candidates. And Mr. Kebukati is clearing these guys to put them on the ballot. So what type of elections is this? I'm still maintaining this week that there is no election that you can see in Kenya, because in Kenya they are just violating every norm of election. You have been a member of the Jubilee Party. You have been a member of, you have formed UDA, crossed over to form UDA, you lose elections, you are rejected a member in that party. 3 months, now you jump. You are now there. You are saying I'm an independent. Where are we heading? Where are we heading? No wonder the people of Kenya, no wonder the government in Kenya has already allocated funds for a rerun, because they know this election will be nullified. So why do you set an election to be nullified? Already I have questions. Chebukati wanted to open the ballot papers. He wanted to open the ballot box. It was a trick, Miriam, to cover himself from what nullified the 2017 election. You know, they were asked, how did you find out about spoiled boxes, ballots? So he wanted this law to be passed so that he can open and check, so that they don't query him. It is, we are going in the same election with the same problem, Miriam. We still have, under my panel, you still have the same problem, the same disease, that we don't have a box for, at the tallying center for spoiled box. Once you count them, where do you throw them? Where is it? There's no provision at all, because the law does not allow you to introduce another box unless it is a law. But the MPs just shut down the law. So Chebukati was left again. We are going with the same spoiled papers. Someone will say, can we see how many spoiled papers overall in the presidential candidate? You could find that there are 500,000 votes across the whole country out of 22 million voters. And the 500,000 votes, if you increase it to one of the candidates, counted as real votes, that candidate wins an election. So for me, I still believe there is a way to correct this election to make sure that it's credible. And unfortunately, the timing is not on our side. The timing is against us. The timing is against everybody who wants to make this election credible. The international observers are coming in to say it is very good. We saw, we are satisfied. Monitors, AU as usual with the same language. They just change the date. You know, AU always changes the date. If it is in Guinea-Bissau, it was 220, they changed it to 2022 in Nairobi, 9th October, or 10th August, Miriam, they will issue a statement, the same type of statement. We don't scrutinize areas which bring us violence, which bring us contestation at the last minute. People are going to contest against some of these things that we are doing knowingly. So for me, I believe there are no independent candidates in Kenya with independent ideas. You saw so many people saying, I'm going, one of them was even saying, I'm going to vote to go into the election, but I will be with you. I still support. Can you listen to this? The one of Bomet, who was the chief teacher who was defeated very early in the morning, that I'm going to stand as an independent, but I support William Samoei Ruto. The Nandi independent candidate, Mr. Alfred Cattell, says, I'm going to go independent, but I still support the party leader. So who is your party leader? If you are independent, who is your party leader?
When did I'm trying to find the date when the primaries happened in UDA. It was not too long ago, but let me just find the exact date for that, so that we see if at all even the, it's within the constitutionally, allowed time, 3 months before the elections. Then that is supposed to be back at the beginning of the year. So let me just find out that as perhaps Gladwell Kirago gives her thoughts.
Thank you so much, Miriam. And of course, good afternoon, Doc. A very good question. There are people in Kenya, the contenders, and they're independent. I understand to be correct. The only person who we can say that she qualified because she joined the independent side was Ngirishi. Ngirishi did that, I think, months ago. But as we can see, the others, when they failed during the nomination, that is when everybody said, I'm now an independent candidate. Everybody getting his or her symbol of what you'll find on the ballot papers. Others, the symbol of tractors and others, and other symbols that you'll find symbolizing that they're independent candidates. But at the same time, as we talk about you being independent, the one independent means that you can fully manage yourself. So that means you won't need somebody to support you maybe in these campaigns. So I think the word independent is misused in Kenya because some of these candidates actually being supported by others. We can see, for example, somebody like Nongare, the women rep who is contesting the Kiambu women rep. She's being supported by somebody else. Who is funding her campaigns. Another aspirant who I know too is also being supported by somebody else. Yet the person is saying that I'm an independent candidate. Being independent means that you're catering for your own bills, for example. You're catering for everything during the elections. You're not being supported by anybody. So I think we should also do away with the word independent. Mm-hmm. And again, yes, we should do away with the word independent to get a suitable name, because the word independent, as Miriam, you can get the correct definition of independent. That means we need not to depend on anybody, even for survival. But what happens with our candidates, or independent candidates, but yes, you're still asking for funds. Are you really independent?
Mm-hmm. Very good questions there. And also, fine, according to what the Constitution says, I think the Jubilee, not the Jubilee, but the UDA primaries happen around mid-April and around April there. So between that date and the date of election, I think they might meet that, the timeline according to the Constitution. But even be it as that may be, an independent candidate should be independent. So the fact that some of them are running as independent candidates, but they still are paying their allegiance to a particular, a particular presidential candidate, I think that invalidates the essence of being an independent candidate. They're not truly living to the spirit of being an independent candidate. So those are very pertinent questions there, Gladwell, that you've asked, and even Dr. Post before. If you're independent, it's because you are independent in how you look at your policies and how you want to push for your agenda. But if you're independent just for the sake of being elected because you missed out on the primaries on being nominated in one of the big tickets, and now you decide you want to go independent, but you still supporting a certain presidential or a certain candidate on another party, you're not supposed to be aligned with any party. You're supposed to be independent by yourself. But if you're still supporting another party, then that negates the essence of you being and going as an independent candidate. Doc, back to you.
Miriam, I agree with you, and I agree with your sentiments. All what they do is they tell you they have disengaged with the main party. But when they reach there and they get the ticket, they say, I am here standing independent, but I want you to vote for me, but my presidential vote should be for Raila Amolo Odinga. You are not independent.
You're not. You should not even be having Raila's on your poster at all if you're independent.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You should be disqualified immediately. You say, my candidate for the vote for my candidature is mine, but the vote for president is for Ruto. These are some of the dangers that Africa is receiving, that you find out that somebody goes on a technicality medium of that nature, he records your voice, you are addressing a rally, you are telling people the same things that you are saying now, that don't worry, I am in for Mr. Ruto, even if I'm this side. So anakurecord, anaenda anachukua kotini, the whole business goes down and flops.
And those are the things that IEBC should looking out for, because it does have the mandate to now monitor and see who is violating these electoral laws. If somebody is violating that, they've come to you and they've registered as an independent candidate, but you can clearly see they're running the agenda of another party, that person should not be on the ballot. IEBC, you're supposed to disqualify these people. So IEBC is sleeping on the job, because there are lots of these independent candidates out here. And I think once you're done with these are the seats, we look at that meeting that happened yesterday, IEBC had with some independent aspirants. We shall look at that. But that is where IEBC should come in, disqualify these people who have registered as independent, but when they're having these rallies, they're still supporting another party. That is out of order.
Okay, thank you very much, Miriam, and thank you very much, Kiruka. Miriam, it is completely out of order. IEBC is lost. Miriam, I've been building this case since Monday. I've been telling you since Monday. As today is Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, since last week. I've been telling you, my dear, that this IEBC is working for someone. But somewhere in the Kenya government, in the institution, the authorities, can't see this. But some of these days, they will see it. That IEBC is working for someone. It is working for a victory. You can see the way they can oppose the register of political parties. You can see the way they are opposing the chairman, the CEO of Kenya Communication Authority. The wrangle between CAA and the wrangle between IEBC could plunge this country into chaos. Chiloba and Chebukati. Chebukati thought he had finished Kiloba. Kiloba resurrects in CAA. And the CAA mans the entire election. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm. CA.
So if you are talking about an election in Kenya, these are some of the worries that people should know, that this rivalry could open up a lot of loopholes, could bring in a lot of litigation that could nullify our election.
Mm-hmm. And Doc, we were looking at that story earlier on our morning show, and Chebukati yesterday, of course, was saying that even in Nairobi, there are polling stations in Nairobi which do not have 3G network. I thought, which Nairobi? The last time we checked, Nairobi was fully covered, so Chebukati should stop playing with people. But he's saying even parts of Nairobi, there's no 3G network. That is not true.
You see, the fight between Chebukati and Kiloba, and then the fight between Ruto and the ministers is similar. Ruto is fighting the ministers to leave, but he sits in the cabinet with the ministers. And as soon as he leaves, he's on a trail on top of the vehicle. He's in Muranga, using the same petrol. And he doesn't want the same ministers also to use the same petrol to go to Nyeri. He says they are now siding with one side of the party. So the best thing is this. Since this Kenyan issue of the deputy president, Miriam, you might have touched it in the morning.
Yes, you did.
The deputy president is the first time for the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya to contest for the presidency. You remember that? There is no other person who tried in the new law from 210. So the IEBC and the government and the parliament should now think that a deputy president, after him being selected as a candidate on 4th of June, he should cease to be in office. Because how are you going, Miriam, how are you going to differentiate that the money he's using for campaign is not the money he's getting from the salary of the government? It's a lacuna. You see that lacuna? Mm-hmm. You see, no, honestly, will you go to Ruto and say, hey, you hired these vehicles, but you have used the money that we paid you? You are using the government Mugonyi. Mugonyi is a spokesman of the president, of the deputy president. The deputy is still chairing the meetings of governors. So if he calls the governors to his house, he can tell them, you know, I'm standing for presidents and you must support me. That is already very dangerous. Why can't we separate it? Kiruga, Chirago. Madam Kiragu, do you have anything else to say before I come to a takeaway?
Yes, Doc, and as Miriam has said, it was a topic we had in the morning. And as we can see, like the Kenya Kwanza, there also seems to have an issue with the interior, also the Fred Matiang'i. And as we were saying in the morning, there's no way you can separate security with the votes. Then that means there won't be an election. There's no way we can have an election that is not guarded, an election and whereby the votes, they had no security. So what Kenya Kwanza and also the deputy president are doing, as Doc, as you've said, what they're trying to do is the grudge they have against each other, they're kind of bringing it out to the public and hence causing the incitement. I mean, the personal issues should not also be brought to the public. That is the one personal issue between Matiang'i and Ruto. They should sort their issues if they decide to sort it out, but they should not include it in the election. We cannot have an election that is not guarded. It can never happen. Then there's no need of us wasting a whole day lining up, and then we have an election whereby we'll have a rerun again because they're saying that we can't guard the election.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Doc, before you give your takeaway, let's just add to that conversation, because we were looking at other independent candidates, I think, in the MP seat and other elective seats. But now let's look at the top seat. And the number of those seeking the presidency is expected to drop ahead of IEBC's registration of presidential candidates between May 29th and June 7th. In a meeting with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission yesterday, disgruntled aspirants asked the electoral agency to scrape some requirements, including presenting signatures and identity card copies of 2,000 supporters from at least 24 counties. For many of the aspirants present, getting the 2,000 signatures and ID copies has proved to be a tall order, with many citing lack of resources to reach the required number of supporters, even as the deadline for submission elapsed yesterday. The Commission, however, extended the deadline to May 25th. That will be tomorrow. Okay. 25th, after the majority of the independent aspirants complained that the time given was insufficient. Currently, 11 presidential aspirants have been struck off the list after failing to beat the running mate submission deadline that elapsed on May 16th, leaving a total of 55 aspirants. And Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate William Ruto is expected to appear before the commission for the registration on June 4th, while his Azimio counterpart Raila Odinga will do so on the June 5th. Last month, the High Court dismissed a case where independent aspirants sought to stop the IEBC from requiring them to submit ID photocopies of their supporters. In the ruling, Justice Anthony Mrima said revoking the guidelines by IEBC would lead to a constitutional crisis. So obviously, the court here acted with a lot of wisdom, and they said, if we listen to what you're saying and we rule against the IEBC, then we shall be having a constitutional crisis. So if IEBC tells you, then you're supposed to bring all the signatures of your supporters, because you want to run for a president. So you're supposed to at least get 2,000 signatures from at least 24 constituencies, 24 counties. So that will about 48,000. So you should bring that, and also bring the signatures and bring with the ID copies. Is this the right way? Because, Doc, this is something especially you have been worried about the length of the ballot paper we are going to have, as far as even the presidential election ballot is concerned. But now this could be a nice way to weed out, the jokers, because if you can't have, providing 2,000 signatures from 24, counties is a tall order for you. So why are you running? That means you don't even have that much support. So why are you joking, and why are you wasting our time?
Thank you very much, Miriam. Whichever way you want to say, the ballot paper will still be long.
You think they will gather this 48,000 each?
Some of them will manage.
Might.
I am aware that some of these candidates, the number of candidates for presidents could come to about 16 there. Yes, there are people like Karui. They have managed to get those signatures. Karui has been working quietly. Jeff Karui. They have been working quietly and getting signatures. There are people like the running mate of Karui, who used to be the running mate, who now wants also to become the president. That man who combs hair like Kalonzo. So he also wants to be, he has got that number. So the point here, Miriam, I'm making is this. Even if it reduces to about 15 presidential candidates, with all those names, or 20, then you add other independent members of parliament. You have seen the figure totals up to almost 40,000 names in 1,900 seats. We are looking to pick 1,900. It is like the interview that I did with Sky News when they called me. There were over 25,000 applicants. Even when I touched the paper, I wanted to run out. I said, who am I here, Miriam, who will struggle with within 25,000 wazungu some of them with suits, some of them with jeans. We took 3 days work doing an interview. They cut down the list. It came to still 15,000 first round. Then it came to about 7,500 last round. So in this 7,500, who am I to have gone through all the stages to here? I kept on telling my family members that let me not go. Today I will not go because I'm wasting a lot of my retro time. But what God keeps you, you don't know. But this list looks like that. Even if you cut it down, the places you are looking for are 1,980 something seats.
But they're distributed across the country. But it's still going to be long, I understand,
No,
especially
we are looking,
areas.
no, Miriam, we are looking at the voter. The time, if you look at the voter, one voter, look at 9 hours. 9 hours. Between 6 and 5. That's when the polling stations stop. So when you now start and say people who are on the queue continue voting, that's when, now that is when theft. You see, you know where theft starts now. That is when people start manipulating figures. You see the point? You can vote until tomorrow morning. Looking at the list that is going to be produced by, I don't know how the printer will do it, but you need a very energy drink, a very big two cans of Red Bull. If you are weak, you need 2 cans of Red Bull to drink in order to look for the name you want. So in these circumstances, 2 people are going to pay. There are 2 parties that are going to win to get out of this big, tedious work of IEBC. That is Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Because people know them. People are coming to the...
But they have been, Doc, they have increased, the number of polling stations have increased by 10,000 because each polling, like when you go to a polling center, a lot of times it's a school, right? So every room should only accommodate 700 voters. So I think they have increased 10,000 polling stations because of that. And so maybe they might be able, Kenyans will be able to vote in time.
Let's go, William, let's go practical. You have increased, you have decreased. This is the newspaper. You have decreased to 700.
No, usually it's 700 per polling
station. You have increased more 700 in one polling station.
Yeah.
Several. Okay. But what is the dominant factor that remains constant between the 2 objects here?
The number of aspirants are still many.
Thank you. You'll still waste. You'll still have to waste to look for the aspirant, and you will need somebody to say which is not allowed.
It is allowed because the others who can't see. So, but
those who can't see, yes.
And there's still others who needs help. So what happens is the IEBC officials and a few because a few maybe from other parties will come there. What do you call them? Clerks will come and assist. So there will be witnesses there to assist you, so that you're not misled into voting for somebody that you don't want to vote for. So the mechanisms are there.
Don't you think that is where the cheating starts from? Imagine on that polling station in Lodwar, where agents are not there. If you don't have agents, tell me one of these independent agents who are going to have agents in Lodwar.
No, these independent people a lot of them are jokers.
But
very few of them will make it.
My sister, My sister, they
A
are
lot of them are
jokers.
jokesters.
They are going to be on the ballot.
They are going to be on the ballot, yes.
So they could be used for stealing, for rigging. Yes, they could be used. Someone goes in and said, I'm showing someone because he hasn't seen, tick this one, tick that one. So, look, that is where the beginning of trouble of this election is. It should have been made easier by staggering the elections. Even if you don't announce the results of the presidential vote, but you stagger the election in 2-3 days. You say, okay, the presidential vote will be on 10th or 9th. Members of parliament will vote on 10th. The Senate, or you can team them together, member of parliament and woman rep. They will vote on 10th. Governor and the senator will vote on 12th. MCS will vote on 14th. But you don't announce the results. Because when you announce the results of the president, people will not vote the following day. People in Kenya want the presidential results more than what else is there. So you keep all these results on 15th, 16th, you start counting them. That's what India does. India votes for 3 months.
I mean, that's a population of over 1 billion, so that's a different scenario.
Fine, but 3 months is very good. The medium is good to make sure that there are no errors. You know, you come and vote at your time. They give you time that for the whole week, your area will be voting.
Doc, that will burn this country to the ground. Come vote at your own time. Already it's very sensitive. You know how, I think it's the mentality and what we've seen over a long period of time, and it has become a sort of like a custom. The reason why I'm going to vote is because of the president, and while I'm at the polling station, I might as well vote for the member of parliament and the governor and all that. You know, Kenyans, like you've said, Doc, they really don't care much, and that's why we have these crappy leaders we have as members of parliament and these other positions, because they're not the driving factors. They're not the reason why people go to vote. People go to vote because of the presidency. So if we do that, so we will see perhaps a low turnout in the days where other posts are being voted for. So, you know, we go to vote for the presidency, unfortunately. So while we are at the polls, so we will be given other ballot papers. So we might as well vote for the rest of the positions. Unfortunately, that is the mentality of a lot of Kenyan voters. So that's why you have all these crappy leaders we have around.
Miriam,
Sad but true.
Okay, you haven't seen, you have said it well, but you have not seen my other point. The point here is, if you stagger the elections, mandatory, but don't announce the results. Mm-hmm. Stagger the election. You say on 10th or 9th of August, we shall vote for the president.
Mm-hmm. And all these times you've had IEBC saying there are places without network, so they'll bring the physical papers. And then after 10 days, you want to announce to Kenyans the winner. They'll be like, all that time you've been cooking the figures.
So, but all the same,
Kenyan electorate is something else.
It's a very terrible electorate. the lack of seriousness, the lack of patriotism, the lack of all these factors, Miriam, play in our elections in Kenya. Therefore, let me make a submission and I will close. Kiruga, do you have anything before we close?
I just wanted to add that, Kenyans, we are very funny. Even though we are given 3 days to vote, we all rush to vote to the last minute. The same thing that happens to the Huduma numbers. When the extension was extended, the people rushed to the last day to vote. So even though Kenya, we added more days to vote, the last day, that is when everybody will rush to vote. So at a point, I always say we just stick to that one day, though at a point it also doesn't make sense.
And Doc, there's one of our viewers who is agreeing with you. His name is Kalistas Lumula. Thank you for watching us and a very good afternoon to you. He's saying, speaking from experience, unless you're guided by close relative, voters will always be misled. Things like color of the ballot papers are misread. Okay, and then he adds that Doc is right. If India can vote for 3 months, why can't we vote for just 3 days?
Exactly. And that is why in medium, the basic thing in life, in why I like European countries and all countries which are not African, they are researchers who pick an idea and expand it. But Miriam, my sister here, we don't have researchers. We don't have people who keep people belittle you. For example, what we are talking here on this TV right now is very sensible. Look at that. If India can do it for 3 months, Kenya cannot have, it can fail to do for 3 days. You can stagger this election and tell people that on 11th, you will only be voting for woman rep and you'll be voting for MP, 2 of them, because you need that house to be full in order to abide by the Constitution, to be able to swear in the president. Then he comes to address the House. Then you go to the Senate and the governors. It is being done across in Uganda. In Uganda, you don't mix municipal, local government,
The
which is
MCAs.
like the counter government. You don't mix their elections with the normal election of the president and the MPs. No. Even there, it is even cumbersome. Look, let's be honest. The whole thing of Kenya is muddled with too many obstacles. You cannot have 15 presidential candidates, 40,000 aspirants. You will drop 10,000 or 20. Remain with 20 aspirants looking for 1,987 seats. Ash. Allah. So somebody should pick this as a model and write a motion to Parliament. Parliament is still there. In case a war breaks here now. No, if a war breaks here now and the president wants troops to go and fight people who have invaded our country, Parliament will run very quickly with the Gazalas. They will be in that Parliament. Why don't we call them and straighten this election now? Because we are not straightening the elections, and that we are going to say, Kurigina told us, Kurigina told us, Kurigina told us, Kurigina told us. Where are we? You tell me. A ballot paper as big as a bed sheet. In fact, you can take it and go and use it for covering your legs because of the cold weather of Kenya at night now in Nairobi. and look, Miriam, a voter comes to the polling station, let's be honest, arrives there. The only people that voters know in Kenya, if you go for your research at the moment, there are Kenyans who don't know the Minister of Transport. But there are Kenyans who know President Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, and William Ruto. Each of them are known for their own. President is known to be the president. William Ruto is known to be a deputy president. And Raila Odinga is known to have been there longer to fight for liberation and a former prime minister. Then you begin going down, you are now convincing only, then you ask the person, Miriam, put a quiz on this TV. and collect people in one room, remove the telephones from them, and say who was the vice president after Karanja, after Moi sacking Karanja, who was the vice president, who became the vice president. Even us now on this panel, people will, do you know who it was? It was Saitoti. The late Saitoti replaced the professor of mathematics, replaced the professor of history in Nairobi University. Karanja, Dr. Josephat Karanja. But if you do, Miriam, what I'm saying is that people don't know. Now, if it goes to that preference, look here, Miriam, it goes to that preference, then you convince the person you're interviewing, what about Kalonzo? You say, hey, even in that one. Then you come down, you say, and you know Mudavadi, oh, yeah, that one. But the first people they know in this country who are going to benefit, if Uhuru Kenyatta was on a ballot, every ordinary Kenyan will know. William Ruto, every Kenyan will know. Raila Odinga, every Kenyan will know. Say, oh, yo mzee ya Siaya, oh, ndio nataka. But the rest, people don't know. And that is how an election gets spoiled. So, why don't you straighten very well, get time one day. Today, every voter who wants to vote, we are going for presidents. But you don't announce the results. You don't. You keep the results until the whole exercise is done in 3-4 days. Then you start counting the votes. With the presidency, MP, governor and the senator, MCA. Why do you mix a presidential election with an MCA? With MCA? Why? MCA is local government of local counties. Lump it together with the governor and the senator. Then lump these 3 woman rep MP with the president. You can have it 2 days or 3 days, whatever you want. But to lump the whole election in 1 day, okay, I will observe. I'm an observer, by the way. I've applied for my card as an observer, election observer, a monitor. No, I'm an observer, media. So I'll have access to most of the polling stations anywhere in the country. So I'll be watching. But it is a very hard job. That is how, as you rightly say, Kenyans complain of almost everything. They will complain, not only Kenyans. In my country, Uganda, which is your subject, I hope you touched it today. I've given you that subject because I have already a bias. If I start speaking, Museveni will come down here to harass you. You see? So the best I've done was to keep off and not to speak much. But I'm telling you, Miriam, the happening is there. Worry you that, okay, if you are to be in a house and you can't move out of your house, then you are told by the police to go back to your house and go and susu inside there, eat inside there, don't go. So the tactics of Obama, Myanmar. Remember the lady sung and sang of Myanmar. Myanmar, Burma. We used to call it Burma. Those are the tactics in our country. That is what life is. So at least there, the rising prices, people are saying it is too much. and they just want to say it is too much. They have kept quiet, they are being told to go and grow more crops. Then some are asking, grow. There was a very funny statement that one, you said, tighten your belts. So one of the MPs said, where do we even buy the belts from? We don't have the belts to tighten the belts. So it is sad. Africa has a sad scenario. The mentality here is almost of our local people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same across Africa. Look at the MPs who stood as independent in Uganda. All of them, when they reached the parliament, they decided to pay allegiance to the ruling party. All of them. They don't speak as independent. They now speak like NRM themselves. So there is no independent candidate in Africa, except in South Africa. There are easy. They have got about 9 independent candidates in the Parliament of South Africa. Mm-hmm. They speak on issues. They criticize the government. They criticize the opposition. They have their own, line cut very straight. Mm. Thank you very much. Let me do a takeaway. Unless you have something.
Yes, and some news that I know would interest you, and then you can do your takeaway. Today there was a case being heard in Nakuru, a petitioner who wants Keroche Boss out of Senate race over tax case because she's saying the company which she owns, this petitioner says, Mrs. Karanja failed to pay taxes and tax evasion, and we know she still has that case in court. It's a matter of public, knowledge, and that has been there even before she announced her interest of running for this Senate seat. So it cannot be a political witch hunt. Okay, so this petitioner wanted Mrs. Karanja to be found unsuitable to hold public office because of the tax evasion case. So right now, from the court, the case was being heard today. Keroche Breweries Limited Chief Executive Officer Tabitha Karanja Keroche has denied, and remember she's even put that name as her official name now, has denied ownership of the company. Tabitha Keroche made the revelation in the reply to a suit filed by a Nakuru politician seeking to bar her. Now she says that I'm employed by Keroche Breweries Limited as a director and CEO, but I am not the owner of the company, as alleged by the petitioner. Forget the fact that she's put even that name, Keroche, as her name. She's saying, no, I'm not the owner. I'm just an employee of Keroche. And Kenyans here have so much to say. They're reminded of when DP Ruto also was denying ownership of Weston Hotel. So there you go. You can do the takeaway now. Perhaps we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Let me tell you, Miriam, we don't need to talk about it tomorrow. We finish it now.
Okay.
The point is very clear with that lady. That lady is being taught about manners by Ruto, because Ruto said Weston is not mine. Later on he said it's mine. So this is the problem of being taken to room 350. All of them following the suite of room 350. All of them. And the worst thing is Kenyans are not telling people the truth about these women who parade around the route. They first go to room 350 for interview. That's why she has even messed herself. Some of them cry tears. Miriam, they cry tears. I'm telling you the truth. This is a bottom line. We talk the truth. If you want to hate, you hate. This woman changed the name. Miriam, she even recently changed her name. You saw the papers filed in court. Changed her name. And she was changing their name to perform a fraud. Now she's performing a fraud. Said, I am employed as an employee, but Karaoke is a company owned by somebody else. And you know very well, Miriam, tax evasion in Kenya, in the United Kingdom is 7 to 14 years. Declaring false forms gives you 3 to 4 years. The form, you know why? Miriam, look here. They say this form, they have written something down here to say, make sure they even write that if you write false information, all the fault.
All right. Okay. Very well. So we are nearly coming to the end of the show. So that is very interesting, and Kenyans have so much to say about this. But they're also saying that a majority of shareholders is the husband. Go ahead.
So she has left the husband.
Oh, she's still there. She changed her name to Tabitha Karanja Keroche, for crying out loud.
So she changed her name.
So you'll change a name to a company to match a company that does not belong to you?
Miriam, that's why I'm telling you. The worst thing in the politics of Kenya is that type of politics, where people don't give people jobs on merit. She was not given.
Okay. We seem to have suffered some technical hitch there. Doc, I don't know if you can hear me. Cladwell?
Yes, Miriam.
Yeah, the doc seems to have frozen there. I don't know if there's anything else you need to add to this story before we end the show. We've been ending for the last 20 minutes.
No, I have nothing to add.
Go ahead. On the maybe Karanja's story, Keroche, but I know we'll perhaps have a go at it tomorrow, but you can say something maybe.
As I said, Miriam, in the morning, currently the politics we are playing, they are so dirty. As you can see somebody like Keroche, we know with her company, she has employed so many people with the Kenya breweries. So many people are employed under it. But, now that she has decided to join politics, she will also need to use the...
Mm-hmm. Sorry, and by the way, Kenya Breweries is a totally different company, as they use
No, I got cut off. What happened?
It's okay, some technical issue, but you're back now. We can end.
This is a topic we shall have to play tomorrow, I think. Gladwell Krieger, you had finished, so let me do my takeaway. Simple one. Across the continent of Africa, independent candidates are not independent at all. Independent candidates in the democracies of Africa are very few, except the case of South Africa, where we have the real independent candidates who come in with independent agenda, which is contrary to the opposition and to the government. But they stand neutral in the middle, so that when the government and opposition are hitting each other in parliament, the independent candidate brings an alternative which would help the governance of a state. Across in Kenya, today we see so many independent candidates. They are independent candidates by per se, but they are not independent. They have linings, they lean against with the parties, they dine with the parties, they even mention, they use symbols of the parties to win elections. The Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission of Kenya should have actually specified exactly what type of independence we mean. You cannot have one candidate who has lost the election in the primaries, in nominations, switching off to another, to independent candidature, and then he says, I support the president, the presidential vote should be given to X or to Y, to Raila or to Ruto or to so and so, but you give me my vote as an independent candidate. Such a behavior is not an election. That is a play of students in primary school in Butere Girls. Because when you look at those type of things that happen in countries in Africa, the question of independent candidates in my country, Uganda, for example, all of them, about 120 of them, turned up to be part and parcel of the same government, the same party that they rejected. So where is the independence? If you go to parliament, if you go to campaign and talk about the main party that give the vote to the president of that party which you left, are you independent? Independent should mean independence. Independence should produce independent candidates. If you are independent, then you must have independent ideas that are different from the party, and they should not be part of the parties. That you should not even borrow a manifesto from any of the parties, but be in your own manifesto, like in civilized democracies, the democracies that Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, Max Weber, Karl Marx talked about. Less than that, we are very far from being independent and having independent candidates in African parliaments. Thank you.
Thank you. And that marks the end of our show this afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.